program. And so we have been doing this program a couple of months. We, through the state of Missouri Department of Agent, they were nice enough to get us started. And what we did with this program is what we did with the diabetes prevention program, is where we kind of restructured and made some changes and made it more, you know, creative. And one of the things we did is with our seminars. In this program, it's only 4-month-long program. And so one of the requirements, if you join the program, is that you have to take some seminars, 4 classes, 4 seminars. This is seminar 1. So every week, this time for the next week, every Tuesday at this time, we'll be having a seminar, something different that Francesca would be delivering. So anyhow, I'll let Francesca tell you a little bit about herself. I'm just the technical Socorro. Make sure you've checked in with her so you can get credit, especially if you're in a high blood pressure management program. This is a requirement for you to take it. So if you plan on getting a program, you haven't gotten it, give Sequoia her name so you can get credit and already, you know, have that out the way. Then you just have to take the rest of the seminars because it is required for the program. All right, so without further ado, let's have Miss Francesca. She redid this, and I'm so excited how she did this for us. I'll let her introduce herself.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Terry. So yes, my name is Francesca. I am working with TAT Health Solutions since the beginning of the year, so for a couple months now. I'm a student right now. I am a registered dietitian, so I do have some background in nutrition, but right now I'm working as an intern with TAT and finishing up my master's of public health and nutrition. That's just some background information on me. And thank you for joining us. This will be recorded, but it's always nice to see faces. So this is the first seminar. Like Dr. Terry was saying, there'll be 4 consecutive seminars or educational classes. So this first one is all about the DASH diet. Has anyone here, has anyone heard of the DASH diet? Have any idea, any knowledge at all on it? It's okay if you haven't, I'm just curious. No, okay. Cool. So we'll take it very slow. And it's not too complicated. This is not by any means to try and overwhelm you. Just a brief introduction, and we're going to go into even more detail about how to incorporate this into your life, you know, how to follow the DASH diet for shopping and cooking and meal prep and all that good stuff in the later classes. So this first class is nice and easy, and it's just a brief introduction to the DASH diet. Okay, so I keep saying DASH diet. So DASH actually stands for the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. So in this seminar, we'll give a brief overview of the DASH diet and what it encompasses. We'll go over nutrition and blood pressure facts, what exactly the DASH diet is. We'll go through a day following the DASH diet, choosing healthier options, and why this dietary approach actually works. Okay. So I don't know if any of you, I know personally myself, have you ever noticed that certain foods that you eat kind of affect you in maybe a negative way? You might feel bloated, or you have a really high salt meal out at fast food or a restaurant, and you kind of feel your hands start to swell up. Has that ever happened to any of you? I know it's personally happened to me. I notice it if I go out to eat. Okay, so that being said, food does have a significant effect on our blood pressure. So sodium, saturated and trans fats, and added sugars actually work to increase our blood pressure. So that's why a lot of these foods, we're trying to encourage you to limit them or avoid them in your diet. Whereas eating a variety of different fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, different nuts and seeds can actually help us to control our blood pressure. So that's why we encourage these foods and these food groups. So we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail, but in general, that's why these 2 categories kind of have a significant effect on our blood pressure. And you might notice it when you're eating out, when you're having meals at the holidays. We just celebrated a holiday over the weekend. Maybe you had some foods that weren't prepared, in your own home and they're prepared in someone else's house and they maybe have a heavy hand with the salt shaker, you might feel it in your body. You might be really thirsty for the rest of the night. So things like that. So our calorie intake should be balanced. So the calories that we take in, that we're eating, should equal, in theory, should equal the amount of calories that are being burned, or the calories that are going out. In that case, it just means the calories that we're burning off throughout the day. And then, of course, our weight impacts our blood pressure too. So if we have a steady weight gain for a couple of months or even over years, that's going to gradually increase our blood pressure. Whereas if we're experiencing a weight loss, that actually helps to decrease our blood pressure. Just want to go back to this slide. This slide is really important. I hope you all can see it. This is actually from the American Heart Association. If you want to take a picture of it or visit that website. This is just a really good snapshot of what your blood pressure should be, what's considered normal, and it gives you the numbers. So a normal blood pressure reading is really anything with your top number, that systolic number, less than 120. And your diastolic number, or the number on the bottom half of that fraction, should be less than 80. So you might hear often at your doctor's office, they're talking about that ideal blood pressure of 120 over 80. That's considered normal. And then under the green, you have the yellow, which is elevated. So that's kind of just hovering above 120 to 129 for your top systolic number. And then your diastolic number on the bottom, anything that's less than 80. That's considered technically elevated blood pressure, but that's actually where a lot of Americans hang out, in that elevated pre-hypertensive state. And then in the orange and the two red on the bottom, they actually break high blood pressure into 3 different stages here. So anything really above 120 is high blood pressure, but for this chart, they're saying that 130 to 139 would be stage 1, over 80 to 89. And then a stage 2 high blood pressure would be 140 for your systolic or higher, over 90 for your diastolic or higher. So it is important to regularly monitor your blood pressure and understand what a normal reading is, because you might be measuring your blood pressure, but you might not have any idea what the numbers even mean. So this is always handy to keep with you, especially if this is new for you. Do any of you guys regularly monitor your blood pressure at home or have a blood pressure cuff? You do? Excellent, excellent. So you're kind of familiar with some of these numbers? Excellent, okay. All right, so let's talk more about the DASH diet itself. Okay, so we talked about what DASH actually stands for, which is the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. So yes, technically this is a diet, but it's a dietary approach to get you to modify what your typical or normal behaviors are and modify them in a way that work to reduce your blood pressure overall. So it's actually based on research that was sponsored by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. And the overall aim, like I said, is to reduce the risk of developing even further cardiovascular disease, such as, stroke or heart attack, things like that. So the aim is to, of course, lower high blood pressure levels and improve your blood lipid levels. The emphasis is mainly on vegetables, fruits, and fat-free or low-fat dairy. But the diet also includes whole grains, beans, nuts, different seeds, vegetable oils. And of course, it limits sodium and sweets, as well as sugary beverages and red meat. And red meat's a big one for this diet. When you're following the DASH diet, you're really encouraged to limit the amount of red meat that you're consuming. Do you guys, now that you're in this health world and you're more self-conscious of, what you're putting into your body and how your body's feeling, do you guys still have a lot of red meat in your diet, or are you already choosing things like chicken, lean proteins like chicken, turkey, fish? Do you have a high consumption of red meat sometimes? No? Okay.
No.
I'm vegan.
Vegan. Awesome. All right. Okay, so these next couple slides go over the different food groups and then what the DASH diet emphasizes for those different food groups. So we'll take it one at a time. So for vegetables, nothing really earth-shattering, nothing groundbreaking here. The DASH diet emphasizes, like most healthy diets, a variety of colors that are rich in antioxidants, potassium, and fiber. So again, pretty general, but you'll see as we get to the proteins and the dairy where the DASH diet really comes in. Same thing with fruits. So of course, fresh or frozen fruits are, fresh is always the best. If you can't find fresh or it's out of season or it's too expensive, you can always do the next best thing, which is frozen. And I'm a big advocate for frozen fruits because a lot of produce just goes bad way too fast. So if you have fresh or frozen fruit, excellent. You can also use dried as long as there's no sugar added. A lot of the dried fruits that they have in the supermarkets now, they're adding tons of sugar to them, which they don't need to. Fruit is naturally sweet. And then canned fruits. So any fruits that are canned in 100% juice would be acceptable for the DASH diet, and really any healthful diet in general. You don't want any sort of fruits that are made in syrups. The next food group is grains. So the DASH diet emphasizes whole grains. So things like oatmeal and barley, opposed to things that are more refined, like your white rice, white bread, things like that. So now the next one is protein, and protein's where it really starts to get a little bit different with the DASH diet. So as far as meat, if you're going to have red meat, you want to make sure that you're always choosing a lean cut. So, a round or a pork loin, a loin in general. They're even, I see all the time, I actually buy them quite often. They have turkey tenderloins now, pork tenderloins. So leaner cuts of meat. Any sort of chicken, so skinless poultry, or fish. Things like salmon, that's an excellent source of healthy fats, omega-3s in salmon. So DASH diet is big on emphasizing healthy fats and fish. And then same things like if you are vegan or following a more vegetarian-based diet and you consume the DASH diet, you would consume more, edamame or tofu, beans, different sorts of nuts and seeds. The only caution with beans, especially when you're following a DASH diet and you're aiming to reduce the sodium content in your overall diet to lower your blood pressure, you want to make sure that you're reaching for cans of the beans that say no sodium added or at least reduced sodium. And a lot of the companies are doing a great job at advertising it. They'll have a big label across the top of it on a lot of the canned goods that said, no sodium added or reduced sodium. And also, as far as the beans, even when you do buy a can of beans or any canned vegetable for that matter, make sure that you're rinsing them off just to, again, reduce the amount of sodium. Do a lot of you guys do that? Because I did not know that I needed to rinse beans and like corn, any sort of canned goods. I didn't know that I needed to really rinse them before I even entered the world of nutrition. I never did. So I always thought that's interesting. Okay, the next food group is dairy. So the DASH diet emphasizes low-fat or fat-free dairy, any sort of dairy products, whether that's milk, getting yogurts that are lower in fat or fat-free. if you have, cream cheese as a part of your diet, making sure that you're looking for the reduced or lower fat options. And then the next one, as far as fats or oils, you want to make sure when you're following the DASH diet that you're incorporating healthier vegetable oils. So things like olive oil or avocado oil instead of things like canola. The next one is sweets. So sweets, this is a little bit different than the diabetes program. So I'm not going to spend too much time on sweets, but it is important to mention as part of the DASH diet that you always, of course, want to be limiting any sort of added sugars in cereals or breads or any baked goods, things like that. Of course, we want to limit the amount of added sugar that we're consuming in our diet. And then as far as vitamins and minerals, I know this isn't particularly a food group, but it is important to mention, just in giving a brief overview, that the DASH diet does emphasize both potassium, magnesium, calcium, and as well as a reduction in sodium, which is what we've been talking about. Okay. So there's a lot going on this slide, but this is actually all the different daily servings or serving sizes, and they're based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So this is just general. So this is not necessarily specific to you and your calorie needs. This is just a general 2,000 calorie diet. So we'll start from the top. We'll go with grains. So the amount of daily servings is listed here between 6 and 8. Again, if you're following a 2,000 calorie diet. And then on the very right of this chart, it gives you some good examples of what serving sizes actually look like. So one serving size or one serving of a grain would be equivalent to 1 slice of bread or 1 cup of cereal. So again, aiming for 6 to 8 servings for your whole day. Next would be your meats, and you would go so on and so forth. I do want to just focus though on the sodium, which is in the middle of this chart. So ideally we want to aim for any American, we want to aim for less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. However, when we're focused on a very low sodium and DASH diet approach, that's actually even lowered to about 1,500 milligrams, which is, to be honest with all of you, it is very difficult to do in the world we live in because a lot of things are packaged and on the go, and we're not cooking from scratch as much as we used to. So that is very challenging. So I say, as long as you can stick to around 2,000 milligrams, that's where you should be aiming.
Hi, Francesca, I had a quick question. Actually, so first of all, we had some people come in. You guys welcome, but just little housekeeping. Can you turn your mic, put it on mute? Because this is being recorded. So when people can't come or, we need to refer back to it, we can hear clearly. And also, you can feel free to ask questions at the end. There was a question in the chat from Richard that he asked, is fish 2 times a week? Should we be doing that as a minimum or maximum?
Oh, as a minimum. Great question.
Thank you.
Great question. Yep. And just to go into that a little bit more, as far as red meat, when you are on a DASH diet, you really want to limit that to once, maybe twice a week. Okay. The other nights and the other meals, you really want to aim for leaner cuts of protein or non-animal protein too. We can incorporate maybe a vegetarian dish 1 night per week or a vegan dish. Okay. And then on the bottom of this chart, we have weekly servings. So for things like sweets, per week, you really want like 5 servings or less. So some days, none at all, and maybe one here, one there. So. Okay, so who could really benefit from following the DASH diet? I said earlier that this is important for any American in all honesty, to be conscious of the sodium that's in our diets, because today it is very challenging and we don't receive enough education on just how much sodium we're consuming when we're not even thinking about it. So who could benefit from following the DASH diet would be individuals who are at risk for heart disease. So people who have high blood pressure already, of course. Anyone with high cholesterol. If you have diabetes or a stage of chronic kidney disease. If you are a smoker, that puts you at risk for heart disease. If you're overweight or obese, having a high BMI also puts you at risk for heart disease. And then if you're physically inactive, which I don't think is the case for a lot of you guys here, but if you're physically inactive, then you're definitely putting yourself at a higher risk for heart disease. And we'll talk at the very end about physical activity and its importance. Okay. And the last two, African Americans and also adults age 51 and older could benefit from following the DASH diet. This all includes people who are at higher risk for heart disease. Okay. So this is a snapshot of what the DASH diet would look like in one day. So on the left-hand side, you have the menu that has 2,300 milligrams of sodium, and on the right side, you have a different restriction of 1,500 milligrams and some ideas on how we could modify the left side to make it more DASH diet friendly. So we'll take breakfast as an example. On this 2,300 milligram sodium diet, for breakfast, this individual is having 3/4 a cup of bran flake cereal, 1 medium banana, a cup of low-fat milk, a slice of whole wheat bread, just a teaspoon of margarine, and about a cup of orange juice. So to reduce this diet, because it is already it does fit the criteria of 2,300 milligrams of sodium, but to make it even lower in sodium, you could swap out the bran flakes and use a shredded wheat cereal. And you could swap out the salted margarine for unsalted softened margarine. So that's just some suggestions with the breakfast meal. We'll move on to lunch. So this same person's having some chicken salad on a whole wheat bread with a little bit of Dijon mustard, some cucumber and tomato, and a low-calorie Italian dressing, and a side of fruit cocktail. So depending on how they made the chicken salad, you might want to remove some of the salt from that recipe. That's one way you could reduce the sodium content in this meal. And you could swap out the Dijon mustard for regular mustard. And then for dinner, it looks like they're having some sort of beef round with some gravy and green beans and a baked potato with some sour cream, and a whole wheat roll with some low-fat milk. So if we wanted to take this 2,300 milligram dinner meal and make it even more low in sodium and make it 1,500 milligrams, we could take a tablespoon of natural cheddar cheese that's already been reduced in fat and sodium content, and swap that for the natural grated cheddar cheese. And we can swap out the margarine like we did at breakfast time and use an unsalted version. And then the snack down below, it is pretty DASH diet friendly. You have a little bit of unsalted almonds, some raisins, and a fat-free, no sugar added yogurt. So that meets the criteria pretty well. Okay. So when we're trying to choose the healthier option, this is a little bit of again, I'm gonna ask if you guys want, feel free to participate in this. So we're given breakfast, lunch, and dinner on this slide, and there's 2 choices for each. So I want to see if, based on what we just went over, you can pick out the meal that is lower in sodium. So for breakfast, the choices are a 3-egg omelet with some spinach, tomatoes, feta cheese, and an English muffin, or a cup of fat-free yogurt with some fresh fruit, oats, and some almonds with a cup of water. Which one do you think is lower in sodium?
The second one.
The second one, yeah. Yep. You got your low-fat dairy or fat-free yogurt in this case. You have nuts, you have oats and whole grains, and you have some fresh fruit, which is perfect emphasis for the DASH diet. What are some ways that you might change the first option on the breakfast meal? Let's say you wanted an omelet and you wanted spinach and tomatoes and feta cheese and an English muffin. How could you make that, kind of like what we were just doing on the previous slide, how could you make that lower in sodium? Any idea?
Omit the feta cheese.
Omit the feta cheese, yep, that's one way. Or if you could find a reduced fat feta cheese. What else?
Egg. That's in the eggs.
Less than the egg, yep, make a smaller omelet. That's a good idea. What you could also use just an egg white omelet.
And what about the muffin, English muffin? You can take that out.
You could take that out, or you can choose a whole grain English muffin instead of just a plain white flour English muffin. You could use that. Depending on what they're putting on the English muffin, it doesn't really say, but I'm gonna assume you're putting some sort of fat or some sort of spread on the English muffin. So if they were using butter in this case, maybe choosing, an unsalted margarine or a lower fat butter product or alternative. So those are some great ideas. So I think we're kind of getting the hang of this. So let's try lunch. So the first option is some spinach and whole grain pasta salad with chickens, walnuts, avocado, tomato, and reduced fat goat cheese with some water. Or a very popular tomato, mozzarella, and basil sandwich on some ciabatta bread with water. Which one do you think is lower in sodium? Any ideas?
I think the second one.
You think the second one is lower in sodium? Okay. How come?
Well, we don't know if the mozzarella is low fat or not.
You're right, yeah. We don't know.
I think it's the first one.
But the one up top tells us that they're using reduced fat goat cheese.
Yeah, I think that's.
And the ciabatta bread could have some sodium and added sugar in it as well. So in this case, it's actually the first option, the spinach and whole grain pasta salad with chicken, walnuts, avocado, tomatoes, and reduced fat cheese. So the spinach and you got fresh vegetables, you have some spinach and tomatoes in there. You have some healthy fats from the avocado and the walnuts. You have some lean protein from your chicken, and your dairy in this case is reduced fat. And then you have a cup of water on the side. So sometimes it takes a couple of tries. You have to really dissect the ingredients listed out here and think, do I have a lean protein? Do I have healthy fats? Do I have reduced fat dairy? Do I have fresh fruits and fresh vegetables? And really focus on how we can build a DASH diet healthy plate. So let's try dinner. So the choices for dinner are teriyaki beef and vegetable stir fry with white rice and a cup of water, or salmon with broccoli and brown rice and a cup of skim milk. Which one do you think is lower in sodium?
Number 2.
Number 2, yep. Absolutely, you have some healthy fats from your salmon or your fish, serving of fish for the week. You have some fresh broccoli. Hopefully it was just nicely steamed and not sauteed in, it doesn't say that it was sauteed in any sort of butter or salt. And you have some whole grains. You have some brown rice with a cup of skim milk, some reduced fat dairy. Whereas the teriyaki beef and vegetable stir fry, teriyaki in nature, this is a salty dish, higher in sodium. Okay, let's move on. So these are just some meal ideas, that trying to get the wheels spinning of for you guys, thinking of different ways that you could, you know, alter maybe your typical pizza or your taco or things that you typically might be eating, but how we could make them a little bit more DASH diet appropriate. So for an alternate to pizza, you could try an English muffin pizzas. So you would use whole grain English muffins. So you have some healthy whole grains. You have your dairy and protein would be mozzarella cheese. To make this even lower in sodium, we could really say low-fat mozzarella cheese or reduced fat. And then your vegetable could be a nice side salad or house salad with some romaine, some garden greens, and some fresh tomatoes or carrots, radishes, some sort of sliced vegetables on your salad. And then you'd have a serving of fruit on the side. So just a different type of meal. I know pizza bagels were very popular a while ago, but this is a little bit different spin on it. And then tacos. So I'm a big fan of tacos. I love tacos. I don't know if you guys make tacos. They're pretty much a staple weeknight meal in my house. I make them at least once a week. So in order to make the tacos a little bit more DASH diet friendly or a little bit lower in sodium, you could first take a look at the taco shells that you're using. See how much sodium is in them, because you would be shocked. And we'll talk about this in another seminar when we talk about, you know, food shopping and cooking. We'll talk about how, you know, what to look out for, but you'd be shocked at the amount of sodium that some of the tortillas and the wraps have in them. So just the taco shell alone, if you start there, you will already be reducing the sodium content in your overall meal. Same thing for protein. You want to choose a lean ground chicken or ground turkey. Add some beans or some lentils in there instead of choosing something like ground beef or some shredded steak. And then top it off with some low-fat dairy, choosing maybe a low-fat cheddar cheese in this case. And then, of course, getting in some vegetables with your tacos. So adding, you know, maybe some sliced radishes on top or some fresh herbs like cilantro, maybe some shredded carrots. Don't be scared of herbs. You can always add fresh herbs or dried herbs. It's a great way to season your foods in place of using salt. And then on here, I also included just a little idea of how we could make a lower sodium taco seasoning. So this is a little recipe here, but again, on the topic of tacos, when you're buying, if you go to the grocery store and you pick up, you know, a McCormick taco blend or chili blend, whatever, you know, in the pre-made packs already, always try to choose the lower sodium option or the reduced sodium option because they're making them now. And that should just be an automatic because the amount of sodium that's in the regular versions are way, way too much, way more than we need for the whole day. And then the last one I won't go through, but it's just an idea for a taco bowl. So, you know, giving yourself some whole grain brown rice with some lean proteins on top, some fresh vegetables, and maybe a sliced avocado for some healthy fats. Okay. So why does following this diet actually work for so many people? And why is it so popular? So of course it promotes a wholesome and healthy lifestyle. You are having much more well-balanced meals when you're following the DASH diet, and it actually follows the dietary guidelines for Americans. So you're not just focused on sodium, you're actually more in tune with your macronutrients and your vitamins and your minerals, all while following the DASH diet. The DASH diet also helps to regulate and reduce your blood pressure, reduces the sodium content and any added sugars, saturated and trans fat, and actually increases our intake of potassium and magnesium and calcium and fiber and lean protein. And of course, it promotes a healthy weight loss and or weight maintenance. Because if the DASH diet was somehow making us gain weight, then it would not be helpful or beneficial in reducing our blood pressure. So it does promote a healthy weight loss or at least a weight maintenance. And of course, it replaces empty calorie foods with nutrient dense foods. And that's really important, not only in the DASH diet, in this journey that you guys are in, but in general. We should all be trying to replace empty calorie foods with foods that are much more nutrient dense. Okay. So since we just talked all about the DASH diet, just think about some foods that you ate maybe for breakfast or lunch today. I think it's still a little too early for dinner, but maybe you had dinner already. What foods did you eat today that might be DASH friendly? What foods have you had already today that 100% that was a low sodium item and you feel confident in it? Do you have any you could share with us?
Oatmeal.
Oatmeal, that's a good one. What
I
else?
also had oats. I had oats too, and some almonds.
Excellent. Excellent.
Hard-boiled egg for a snack.
Perfect. Okay. And how about some fresh fruits, some fresh vegetables? Anyone have any fruit or vegetables today?
I had cucumber.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so you can already identify, that's a great sign. You can already identify some foods that you've eaten just over the past couple of hours that would be considered DASH diet appropriate. What are some foods that you might have eaten today that now after hearing this seminar, you feel like, maybe I could improve on them a little bit more? Anything?
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Protein shake. I didn't
Protein.
realize the protein shake had 300 milligrams of salt in it, the one that I was using. But I
Okay.
was wondering, it's supposed to be plant-based.
Okay. So it's a pre-made protein powder and then you're adding it to
Yeah, to almond milk.
almond milk. Okay. Is it unsweetened almond milk?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So you might be thinking of switching your protein powders now?
Well, I guess so. I wasn't, but I guess it wouldn't be bad if I'm using it in the morning, but the remainder of the day I'm eating the other stuff and watching my salt. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. That's actually a great idea. Yeah. If you know what you're starting out with in your protein shake, and I'm gonna guess that you have a big container of it because that's how most protein
Yeah.
powder is sold.
Mhm.
So before just tossing that out, for right now, until you use that up and can find a more suitable protein powder, you might want to just make sure you're adding some fresh fruits, some fresh vegetables to that shake with your almond milk, and then being a little bit more conscious of maybe your lunch and your dinner meals on those days.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's think about some different. Now, this, like I said, we're gonna have a whole seminar on the grocery store and shopping for a DASH diet, but just briefly, think about some of the kinds of DASH foods that you can purchase at the grocery store or at a restaurant or at a convenience store. What kind of foods tempt you or entice you that you feel like you would be inclined to buy? Any sort of snacks that they're very high in sodium, but you know that they make a low sodium version, and I want to
Yeah.
try that now.
The no salt pretzels for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. Absolutely. Excellent. All right, and then last, when you have a busy day or you're, on the go, going here, there, out of the house, what kind of foods do you gravitate towards? These probably are more prepared foods, like packaged snacks, or maybe it's a frozen meal. Do you pay attention to the sodium content or them, or do you think that you will now after talking today? We still have a couple more seminars, so
I
I hope I'm going to change your mind by then. But
I try to pay attention to the sodium, but
Yeah.
my quick items that I usually pick is maybe like a boiled egg because you can go on and go with that, and shakes, of course. And then something that I can change is I like peanut butter crackers, but I'm sure they have sodium in them. I didn't check the amount in it yet, but that's
So
one
two
of my
things-
two go-tos as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad go-to, peanut butter and crackers. The thing is, when you're buying your peanut butter, you want to turn the package around and see what's the ingredients, because it should just be peanuts.
Mhm.
And a lot of them have all these added sugars, you know, preservatives in them that just they don't need to be in peanut butter. Peanut butter should just be peanuts and some salt. That's really all the ingredients should be. And then with your crackers, if you were, getting unsalted pretzels, you can try unsalted crackers too. They do have them. So you could swap those out sometimes. It doesn't have to be all the time, but if that's a snack that you're having every day, it might be a good swap. Okay. The last part of this, before I lose you guys, is about physical activity. We're just going to touch on this. We'll discuss physical activity a little bit in each of the seminars. So if I miss something today, feel free to ask me next week. So, of course, I don't think this is news to any one of you, but evidence has shown that regular physical activity can lead to a significant reduction in our blood pressure and improve other cardiovascular risks. So that's why we're always telling you, make sure you get in your 30 minutes at least of physical activity every day. Make sure you're up and moving your bodies. It's not only important for losing weight, but it's important for keeping healthy joints and healthy bones and keeping a healthy cardiovascular system. So moderate physical activity has also been proven to decrease blood pressure in patients with high blood pressure who are maybe less responsive to some of the medical treatments. So that's why you might be on a medication for your high blood pressure, but that paired with following a diet low in sodium or the DASH diet, paired with, in addition, the physical activity component, that's where you see the most progress being made and the most improvement in high blood pressure. So as far as physical activity, of course, you want to aim for 30 minutes a day. And those 30 minutes should have your heart rate up a little bit. So that's the equivalent to going for a brisk walk for at least 30 minutes. And you want to do that almost every day if you can. So at least 6 times a week. And that's how we get to our 180 minutes each week. And that's recommendations from the Surgeon General. So if you're able to at least meet that, and that's your goal for right now, that's going to help lower your blood pressure immensely. And then if you pair the physical activity, like I said, with your diet, you're absolutely going to see improvement in your high blood pressure. Okay. I'm sure you guys have some questions. I will do my best to answer them. If you don't feel comfortable saying them out loud, I'll check the chat as well. You can put them in the chat or feel free to ask away.
I don't know if it's a question. Well, I think sleep has a lot to do with your blood pressure as well. Would you say that's true? Because I
It
noticed
does.
if I
Yeah.
get 6 hours or 5 hours or something like that, that's usually the time that I might get a little slight elevation in my readings. But I've
Absolutely.
been trying to shoot to get, because I've been getting like 5 or 6 hours worth of sleep since probably the pandemic started. But now I'm working on trying to get at least the minimum 7 hours, but
Mhm.
going up to 8 at least. And I can see some differences.
Absolutely. You can see it, I'm sure, because an 8 is always the goal, but I think a more realistic goal for a lot of us is at least getting 7 hours of sleep most nights. It might not happen every night, but you absolutely will see a difference. And it most likely, I'm going to guess, is correlating to some stress in your everyday life. If you are not able to get to bed and you're not getting your at least 7 hours of sleep, there's probably something else going on that's stopping you. So it likely goes hand in hand with some life stressors. And life stressors absolutely will increase your blood pressure. And some of them we can control and some of them we can't, but we need, our goal is to learn how to manage them.
I watch basketball late at night. That's my stress.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's helping with other stressors. But yeah, and that definitely can. Absolutely. And are you monitoring your blood pressure at home with a cuff? Is that how you know?
I could do better. I just started really because I had an incident a couple weeks ago. Well, actually, my pressure was too low, so I had to get my medication reduced.
Ah,
But
okay.
but I do notice like I can have elevations when I don't get enough sleep.
Mhm.
Or like you said, if I'm like eating out some fast foods like Chinese or something like that. So I kind of cut all that stuff out
Oh,
and
yeah.
been trying to really focus on doing the right thing is from what I know. But I'm glad I did join the program because that's going to help me
Absolutely.
even better manage
That's
things.
our goal, yeah. The fast food, it can be a slippery slope. I mean, as far as salt, that's what we're talking about mainly, right? But it has a lot of fat, a lot of those empty calories that we were talking about. So you're not getting many nutrient dense meals from a fast food restaurant. So if you're swinging through the drive-through, you really want to limit that to a very occasional thing that happens and not something that's part of your regular routine, because it's empty calories, it's high sugars, it's fried, it's fat, it's greasy, it's cholesterol, it's sodium, it's all the stuff that we do not need. So if we can limit it to that being a rarity in our lives, and something that happens maybe on occasion, then that is definitely a goal to have. Any other questions, you guys? You can put them in the chat if you don't want to ask them out loud.
Was you gonna show a video?
Oh yeah, we could show this video. This is actually this is a video that I was working on. It goes over how to read a nutrition facts label. This is actually pulled from the FDA website. So you guys can go on and visit this as well. It's about a 7-minute long video, so just bear with me. But as far as today's topic with the sodium, really focus on that key nutrient. But this is a comprehensive video, just giving you some information on the nutrition facts label, how to read it, what to look out for, that sort of thing. So let me just share this with you guys. 7 minutes long. An overview of reading the nutrition facts label and get down to the basics. We're going to be using the FDA government website, and they have a wonderful tool here. It's an interactive nutrition facts label. So that's what I'm going to be using to help kind of go over the different components of the nutrition facts label. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start with the serving size.
Francesca.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm gonna share something really quick. I'm gonna go to my photos and put it here. Let me go. Sorry, share content. And I went to my photos and go there. It's not in. Okay. I'll share it with you guys next week. I'm not on my desktop. I'm on my, because I wasn't presenting. But basically, I wanted to discuss when you eat like 3 cups of something, you're quadrupling the calories. So if I ate like 3 cups of, potato chips and it's 4 grams of fat, then I'm going to quadruple. I'm going to be getting 12 grams of fat, right? If we're not careful. And I just wanted to give you a visual, but we'll share that next time. I'll be on my computer. But yeah, that's all we have. Sorry about that. I thought I could bring it up, but I can't bring it up on my tablet. I don't know how to bring it up on my tablet. But we'll have it for you guys. And also look out, we will have the video of this as well as the presentation and some notes from this. We'll send it to you guys. And y'all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
Have a
you.
good- Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.